the fish sandwich you're grabbing on the way home isn't giving you the nutrition you think it is, because all over, a lot of fast food fish fillets aren't even whole pieces of fish anymore. And once that happens, everything changes. In this video, we're ranking some of the most popular fast food fish sandwiches in Australia, from worst to best. Not just on taste, but on what they're likely doing inside your body after you eat them. And by the end, there's a good chance one of your regular orders is going to look very different. Let's begin with the one people feel safest ordering, Subway's tuna sub. It's not fried, it's fish. It's served cold, and because it doesn't come dripping with oil, most people assume it's one of the lighter options on the menu. The problem is it's rarely just tuna. In fast food, tuna is almost always blended with a dressing before it reaches your sandwich. That dressing is a mixture of oil and water that's been stabilized, so it spreads smoothly and doesn't separate, which means you're not just eating fish, you're eating a high-fat mixture. So even though the sandwich doesn't feel greasy, the calories from fat are still there, and they're often absorbed faster because of emulsion. This is also the same product that's been at the center of a widely publicized fake tuna controversy in recent years. Independent lab testing reportedly struggled to identify tuna DNA in the mixture at all. They suggested the fish content was so heavily processed, it was almost unidentifiable. Subway strongly denied those claims, but the fact that the product sparked that level of debate has made some consumers question what they're actually eating. On top of that, preserved seafood products rely heavily on salt-based stabilization. That sodium doesn't disappear once it's mixed into the filling. But that's not it. There's also the issue of eating tuna regularly over time. Tuna sits higher on the marine food chain, so it can accumulate trace amounts of mercury from smaller fish it feeds on throughout its life. Now, in small amounts, that's usually not a problem. But when tuna becomes a frequent part of your weekly routine, that exposure can slowly add up. Over time, high mercury intake can cause neurological strain, so it affects concentration, memory, and even fine motor skills in more sensitive individuals. Eat this regularly, and your sodium, fat, and mercury intake all start spiking without giving any cues to being unhealthy, and that's what makes it easy to underestimate. KFC's fish burger is prepared using the exact same coating and frying system as their chicken. Multiple batter layers, seasoning that's designed to lock into the surface, and pressure frying instead of traditional open frying. Pressure frying cooks faster, which helps keep the inside moist, but it also forces hot oil into the outer coating more aggressively while it's cooking. So what you end up with is something that looks crisp on the outside, but it's carrying more fat than normal deep frying. There's another issue that doesn't get talked about much. When protein-based foods absorb excessive surface oil during cooking, your body's digestive enzymes struggle to reach the protein underneath, meaning the grams of protein you're eating are technically still present, but your body can't fully access them. Over time, repeated intake like this can turn what feels like a lighter fast food choice into something that behaves very similarly to fried chicken inside your system. Hungry Jack's uses Alaskan pollock fortis big fish. Naturally, that's a pretty lean fish when cooked on its own. In fact, if you grilled it at home, it's a pretty light protein source. But this version is coated in a batter system designed to survive freezing, transport, and reheating without falling apart. That coating usually includes modified starch, which improves crispness and helps the fillet retain moisture during frying. It also makes the carbohydrate digestion much faster in your body. So even though what you're eating looks like fish, your body treats it like refined white flour. Your blood glucose spikes fast, and then crashes like that too. Combine that with oil that's been repeatedly heated in a commercial fryer, and you've got a meal that's more like highly processed takeaway more than grilled protein. Once in a while, that's not necessarily a problem, but when this becomes a regular order, it can affect insulin sensitivity. And that's usually something people never connect back to a fish burger. Oporto's crispy fish burger feels slightly more premium. It's paired with peri-peri style sauce and served in a toasted bun. Generally, it's marketed as a flavor-forward alternative to standard fast food fish options. But that's the issue. Not the fish, but everything else it comes with. Commercial crumb coatings include wheat-derived components that are pre-treated to brown evenly during frying. So the food still looks appealing, but now it comes rapidly digestible carbs. And once frying oil has been heated over and over again in a commercial kitchen, it's it starts to break down. That breakdown promotes lipid oxidation. You won't taste it, you won't smell it, but once those oxidized fats enter your system, they begin triggering inflammatory responses over time. Now, the fish itself might still be lean in theory, but once it's coated in crumbs, dropped into repeatedly heated oil, and then finished with sauce, it stops behaving like lean seafood the moment you eat it. On paper, McDonald's Filet-O-Fish looks safer than most of the other options on this list. Many Australian locations use a whole-cut fillet rather than a restructured one, which means the natural muscle structure of the fish is still mostly intact when it enters the fryer. That reduces how much oil can physically move into the tissue during cooking compared to minced alternatives. But frying still exposes the outer layers of the fish to repeatedly heated oil. Over time, repeatedly heated frying oil doesn't just change chemically, it becomes easier for the body to absorb, which means once that fat is eaten, it's more likely to pass through the intestinal lining and enter circulation than more stable lipids would. Now combine that with the tartar sauce. Because it's emulsified, the fat it contains is already broken down into smaller droplets before you even take a bite. The fats get absorbed faster during digestion without triggering the same fullness signals that normally slow you down. So even though the sandwich feels lighter than something like fried chicken, you may still be eating and absorbing more dietary fat than you realize in a single sitting. And that's what makes it easy for this to become a weekly habit without it ever feeling like one. On the surface, Guzman y Gomez's Baja Fish Tacos looks fresher than a burger. They're smaller portions with some fresh cabbage and lime instead of a heavy tartar-style dressing. This means you're at least getting some fiber alongside the protein that can help slow digestion slightly compared to something served on just a refined white bun. But that's also where the health halo effect starts to kick in. Because once the fish is paired with creamy dressing and wrapped in soft tortillas, the meal becomes much easier to eat quickly without triggering the same fullness signals that usually slow you down. Liquid and semi-liquid fats, like those found in sauces, tend to leave the stomach faster than solid food, so you may finish the entire portion before your body has time to register how much food you've actually consumed. Refined wraps are also rapidly digested, which can allow glucose to enter the bloodstream faster than expected, especially when paired with fried protein. So while this may genuinely be a step up from heavily battered burgers, it can still deliver more calories than it feels like in the moment. And that's what makes it easy to order again without thinking twice. The grilled barramundi burger at Grilled is where the preparation method changes in the most meaningful way. The barramundi fillet here is grilled instead of deep fried, so the oil immersion stage is removed entirely from the cooking process. That alone makes a noticeable difference because the fish isn't submerged in repeatedly heated oil. The fat content of the sandwich comes from the fish itself rather than the frying medium. And barramundi naturally contains omega-3 fatty acids that are more metabolically favorable than the saturated fats found in commercial frying oils. Grilling also preserves more of the natural protein structure compared to heavy battering or pressure frying. This means your body is able to access and absorb that protein more efficiently during digestion. So in terms of preparation alone, this does tend to perform better than anything else on this list. But that doesn't make it risk-free. Once sauces are added, they become the primary source of additional fat in the meal. With frying oil, some of it can drip off during cooking, but emulsified sauces are consumed in full because it also comes with a refined bun and high-sodium seasoning blends. The overall metabolic response can still resemble something far less balanced than the ingredient list suggests. So even when the fish itself is prepared differently, the rest of the sandwich can quietly undo much of that advantage if it becomes a regular part of your routine. So the next time you reach for a fish sandwich thinking you're making the safer choice, because in fast food, preparation often changes more than the ingredient itself. What looks like a lighter option on the surface can have very different effects once it's inside your system. If this breakdown made you rethink what's actually in your regular order, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let us know in the comments which one of these you're cutting out from your routine.